Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, well, good morning. We are thrilled to be here with you to share a bit of what I think will be a lively discussion. And I really think we're building a bit off of what Auda, if I pronounced that correctly, really laid a really good framework for. And it really is, what does this look like for us as we engage in creating smarter, connected communities? And how do we bring our customers and our citizens and our consumers along with us in that journey? And it's complex. And the framework in which we operate in a utility industry isn't always as easy as it can be to be able to make sure that all of that balance comes together. But I'm thrilled that we have two very progressive CEOs from SMUD right here, as well as from Seattle City Light, to really share their view and their strategies with us. So with that, I thought what we'd do is maybe start with you, Arlen, as the host here, to share a little bit about SMUD and your strategies and what this means to you.
Great. Welcome to Sacramento, everybody. Thank you for supporting our local economy. I appreciate it. I know some of you had an opportunity to go on the SMUD tour yesterday, so I hope you learned something, found it informative. So I thought I would just touch on three of kind of the key initiatives at SMUD that I think dovetail into the conference topics. So the first is, a few years ago, we really did a flip in our focus to where we started every strategic and tactical discussion around how are we going to provide value to our customers and our community. And when we started that conversation, what we quickly learned is we didn't know as much about our customers as we thought we did. We had a lot of assumptions about our customers. So out of that came our Customer Excellence Experience Initiative. And the first thing we did is we journey mapped every touch point with with customers across every part of SMUD's business, no matter where we touch the customer. So things like stop and start service, how you pay your bills, rebates, your interaction with our tree trimmers, to our crews in the field restoring service, to how we communicated outage management. So we worked directly with our customers to understand for each of those processes where their pain points were. And then we took measures to correct those pain points and eliminate them. And part of what came out of that was the recognition that many of those pain points can be alleviated with better information through the digital environment. So we created what we call the Digital First Strategy, which is our goal to be a digital first company by 2020. We're well on our way. Essentially, all of our customer transactions can now be done digitally. That's important because nearly 60% of our customers tell us that they prefer to do business with us digitally, and that number grows every day. We have created online tools to meet the needs of our customers. So for example, we have a tool called Solar Answers, which allows customers to figure out whether a rooftop solar makes sense for their specific home. We use Google Maps and some analytics to do that. We have a similar tool around EVs for customers. We also have a lot of tools around energy usage and data usage alerts and bill alerts and things like that. So that is well underway. More recently this year, just within the last month, we worked with our board to develop our new integrated resource plan. It's unique for us moving forward because in the past, resource plans have been about reliability and affordable energy and making sure you're getting electrons to customers. Still important, still foundational to our IRP, but now it is being done with a real focus on local benefits and carbon. So we have set a target of being carbon neutral by 2040 as a utility, 5 years ahead of the state goal. And part of that, we've also wanted to ensure that all of our investments, to the extent possible, are made locally to drive local economic development, to help improve local air quality, to reach deeply into disadvantaged communities to make so that they benefit from decarbonizing the economy. It's a nearly $7 billion investment plan over 20 years. About a little over $4 billion of that is on renewables. More than half of that is envisioned to be local renewables, largely solar, utility scale, community, and partnerships with our customers. We'll be investing in about $800 million of storage solutions, again local. And then finally, nearly $2 billion of that investment is going to be focused on electric mobility solutions and building electrification. In California, those are the two nuts that really need to be cracked if you're going to really make a meaningful change in carbon intensity. So if we're successful in this over this period of time, we'll all not only reach a net zero carbon future for SMUD, but our community through this effort will see a 64% reduction in carbon in the Sacramento region. So I'm really excited about that, and we're just getting started on all of that. And then finally, another big initiative is, since our revenues are flat or declining, we're really focused on how do we create new revenue streams. So I'll touch on two things quickly, and then I'll stop. The first is in California, there's a phenomenon that some of you may be aware of called community choice aggregation. So that is where communities can come together and choose to be the electricity provider for their residents, and the investor-owned utility continues to own the poles and wires. So we looked at that and thought, we're already good at that. Why don't we leverage our intellectual capital and our capabilities to become a service provider to those CCAs? We're now a service provider to 2 CCAs who have, between the two of them, have over 600,000 customers. That is expected to be overall more than a $9 billion industry in California over the next 10 years. The other thing we're looking at is how do we use our intellectual capital, our intellectual property more effectively. So we're partnering with technology companies to co-develop new products and services. We entered into a joint development agreement with NEC out of Japan and Space-Time Insight out of Silicon Valley to develop products and services initially for the Japanese, Southeast Asian, and Australian markets. And just this year, we entered into an agreement with Open Systems International, OSI, who are implementing our advanced distribution management system to co-develop that next generation of software, DERMS, that will be necessary to optimize the explosion of DERs, which we all expect to occur. And in both those cases, we're going to help market and sell those new products, and we'll receive a revenue stream from that. So that's another key initiative that we're working on. So I'm going to stop there. And
plenty to build on.
Yeah, great, thanks. And it is really, really great to be here. I was telling Arlen before, back in the green room, that I wound up getting here at about midnight last night because I had a busy evening. You know, women in my industry increasingly are playing larger roles. And so I'm at Seattle City Light, and there was a dinner that had been arranged with a number of women who are running utilities in the Puget Sound and Washington area. And so I got here late, and bottom line is that when I woke up this morning and was getting ready, I realized that in my haste, I brought neither a comb or a hairbrush, so bear with me. And usually, my hair looks a little different than this. So,
Glad we got that out of the
there
way.
you go. Yeah. So, that's my disclaimer. I have been in this industry for about 23 years. I came to it kind of in my 30s, so it was really just an accident. And it's a great industry. I've always worked in public power, so I say 23 years. This is my third utility that I've worked at, all of them public utilities, different governance models, all of them. This is my second gig as the general manager, CEO, and this is my 7th week on the job. So I have some notes because they don't let me leave the office without facts, because who knows what I might say otherwise. So Seattle City Light is it is a municipal utility. I am in the city of Seattle. I am a department head, and our department is the second largest in terms of employee count and the largest in terms of budget. So Seattle is a pretty amazing city, and it's really, everything that's happening there is really, it's Amazon. So, and in fact, you know, the city has really, you know, there was a lot of angst about, as Amazon was preparing to announce its new headquarters locations and what would that mean for the city of Seattle and growth, and I think everyone is much more comfortable now. But a lot of what drives our strategic plan, and I'll talk about that a bit, but also a lot of what drives our challenges and opportunities are a result of this really, really rapid growth. And not only the pressures that puts on infrastructure, but like our previous speaker talked about, the racial and social justice and equity issues, because you really have, you really have a very diverse population in terms of people who are working in the tech sector, high-paying jobs, and then the people who have been there for a long time who can't afford homes. So it's a lot like Los Angeles, and I loved some of what you talked about. So we do a 6-year plan, and we completed a plan before I came to work here, so it's a 2019 to 24 plan. And there really are 4 priorities. I would kind of call it a back to basics plan, and that's partly because of the pressures that growth has put on the city. So we're really focusing on customer service and all the things that Arlen talked about. I'll just say right up front, Arlen is way ahead of us. So SMUD is way ahead, and SMUD is really kind of a leader in terms of rate structure and how customer needs are being met. So we have a digital initiative as well, and we're completing an AMI implementation. We'll have all of our residential meters completed by the end of this year, have some additional integration work. So it'll really be the end of 2020 before we are able to really take advantage of that for the benefit of all of our customers. Affordability, as I mentioned, it's a huge issue. Homelessness is a huge issue in Seattle. And of course, utility rates and critical infrastructure, while not the same as rents and home costs, are certainly a big part of the equation, especially for people who are living paycheck to paycheck. And so we are looking at rate structures, again, an area where SMUD has really demonstrated leadership, and just this week had an opportunity to talk with a group, and I'll share about that in a second, but the notion that some of the things that we are looking at maybe being able to work pilots around are things you're doing. So great opportunity to learn from you there. Clean energy is interesting for us, because one of the things that's awesome about the Northwest, and maybe many of you know that, is that we have clean energy. So I think we provide, depending on the time of year, and we are a winter peaking utility. I think you're probably a summer peaking utility. Yeah. So we are a winter peaking utility. There's very little air conditioning load or consumption in Seattle because it's cool and the temperatures are very mild. But we serve, 40 to 50% of our load. The load is the utility term for what you all buy. We serve 40 to 50% of that with generation that we own, which is hydro generation from northeastern Washington. And then we buy power from the Bonneville Power Administration. So our power right now is probably 97 to 98% green, and it's probably greener than that, but there's a small amount that hasn't been tagged as such. So what the challenge for us is that, as you've heard from others and as we all know, customers want renewable resources, and customers very much want to participate in making decisions with their utility, hence CCAs, and customers want decentralized generation, they want rooftop solar, but the financial incentive and the carbon incentive doesn't exist for a utility like Seattle. We are selling surplus power into the market most of the year. We don't need to acquire resources. We want to support our customers, and we must support our customers in helping them do the things they want to do. And again, I really love what you were talking about in Los Angeles about helping economically disadvantaged customers participate in the programs because they want to be full participants, players, but we don't need the power. And we have been greenhouse gas or carbon neutral since 2006. So what power we don't produce or are not certain of, we go out and we buy offsets and invest in offsets to make that green. So it's a challenge. And then last is just continuing on our core business. So that's really where the growth comes in. And I had a couple of interesting statistics for you. So Seattle has been the crane capital of the United States in 2018 was the third year in a row. Anybody want to guess who is the largest number of cranes in the world, a city? Well, Toronto is the crane capital of North America, so you are correct. And so Seattle right now has 65 cranes in the air. I think Toronto has 97. But yeah, it's Dubai. 1,182. Crazy, isn't it? Sydney, Australia, 346. So, and then I'll end with this because this is just a kind of an interesting anecdotal story, but I've been dealing this week with a customer issue. And it's a customer issue because I'm trying to change the way we react to customer concerns. So that's a cultural shift that I'm trying to take a lead on. And so this one directly related to a crane. So, you know, these cranes cost about $50,000 a month is what the developer is spending. And you are generally having to reserve them 6 months or more in advance if you have a project. So this particular customer had a crane and was building a project. And when he originally put his paperwork in with the utility, he believed that he would need to have the lines moved in order to bring the crane in, which is typical. But as it came to pass, as he was bringing the crane on site, because it was a large project, he was able to maneuver without having the cost of moving utility infrastructure, and so that was great for him. But inadvertently, utility staff at the time then canceled because he put in the order both to bring the crane in and to take the crane out. Well, they canceled the order. So now this customer has been trying for some thought that he was all set to have the infrastructure removed so he could take the crane out. And so he estimates right now that you know, very honest mistake on everyone's part has cost him close to $80,000 because now we're having to go through the permitting process, et cetera, and you've got street closures in a city where that's a big deal. And so, you know, just the kinds of things that growth and the pressures that growth can put on both employees in this case who are very, very stretched and customers.
Excellent. Well, very good. I think what I'm going to frame a question to you, and it's to you both, and it's a two-part question. And in light of the emerging, you know, technology landscape and the strategic goals that you have, and the complexities of being a utility and engaging customers is just hard because how much do we actually care at times until we're mad? Mm-hmm. How do you think you're best equipped in the past, like a success story of how you've shifted or evolved to better serve customers, so a success story. And then looking ahead, the second part of the question is, you know, what is that next opportunity and what are you most excited about that will really, you think, make an impact on the way your customers feel about you and think of you as a smart community leader?
So I would say a turning point for us, and I spoke a little bit about customer experience excellence, was really taking a very data-driven approach to understanding our customers. We've had smart meters in place since 2012. We know and now there's sophisticated analytics associated with that, so we really understand a lot about our customers. But we didn't stop there. We've incorporated other information, market research, building information, program participation, channel preferences, demographics, and psychographics to really segment our customers very finely so that we can start to develop programs, services, and products that they individually care about and start to package those things. So segmentation has really let us understand our customers much more finely. I will tell you that one great example of that is we learned from market research that our small and medium business customers just weren't feeling the love, quite frankly. So we place special emphasis on developing tools and special outreach and communications that met their needs, and we saw in our loyalty measurement an 8% uptick in less than 12 months. So it's a pretty remarkable jump by just really understanding your customers specifically. We've also really jumped up how we use market research. We have an online community with 4,000 residential customers, 600 commercial customers that essentially help us crowdsource new ideas, help us refine our programs. They're responsible for essentially how we developed our e-commerce site, which in a year has generated $1.8 million in sales. They also helped identify and prioritize what we included in the initial rollout of our app. So really understanding your customer really well, which shouldn't be surprising in the age of Amazon, but for utilities, it took us a little longer. So I would say that's what I'm really proud of, and I think it really kind of guides a lot of our future decisions. What I'm most excited about going forward is really jump-starting this whole electric transportation and building electrification effort. And, you know, we're doing a ton, and we're setting aside, as I said, a lot of money to really move forward, because I think when you think about the city of the future, one, carbon is clearly, climate change, our most pressing need, and we have to address it. And I think when you think about mobility, energy and mobility become the twin pillars for the new smart city. And so I'm really excited about the real change in innovation that I think we can drive going forward through our investment strategy and working with our local partners and technology partners to make that happen.
Yeah, and I'll go reverse order because, yeah, I'll jump on that. So electrification is a huge opportunity for utilities. And I mentioned and said that Seattle City Light is long, which means having surplus power. Well, we have an opportunity to take that power that is carbon-free and leverage it into the community. So by electrification of transportation in particular, and in our community, we're a public transportation city. So yes, we will see a rollout of personally owned electric vehicles, and that's exciting for us. But the real opportunity is partnering with King County and even with cruise ships now have moved to electrification, and we have a large number of cruises that are going up and down from Alaska that come into the port, Puget Sound area. So there's a huge opportunity there to leverage that and to help the community in general become more carbon neutral. The thing that I'm probably proudest of, and how many of you are with smaller cities? So we're these big cities, but any smaller city folks? So yeah, so you know, I came from PUD in Oregon, and we served 10 small cities along the Oregon coast. So you know, the largest of those cities was 10,000 people or meters. So so I come from that background before coming here, and when I started there, we had fully implemented an AMI system, but we were using a very outdated form of customer interaction. So we had 6 offices. And we knew that now that we had this technology and our customers had paid for that, it was our responsibility to leverage that investment for them. And that meant, though, closing some of those offices. So we were super nervous about how we would do that, because this was almost a social experience for some of these people in small towns. And we did it really successfully. And we did it in a way that our customer satisfaction ratings at Central Lincoln actually went up, even while we were closing offices. And we did it by partnering with other community members like banks and putting offices and co-locating our people in places that were very convenient, extending the hours for the offices that were open, and just doing a ton of communication about it so that customers understood that the CSR that they had been dealing with for the last 20 years wasn't losing her job. She was relocating, and she was there to help them, and we were using technology now to help manage the overall cost of service. So that was something I was super proud of, because it was hard work and it was hard politically, but again, we actually saw increased satisfaction from our customers.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll go ahead and maybe, capstone this a little bit. For the broader audience, thank you for, if you're not involved in this utility world, I hope we were able to provide a bit of context that utilities really are foundational elements of what can help really build a smart, stronger community, both from an economic development as well as providing rich and affordable services to the citizens and the consumers. And I really see that utilities have a huge role in helping lead the way and charting a course to helping our communities be smarter, help our citizens get better services, and ultimately I think we'll be competing more at a city basis than we will be anything else. And it is a Dubai versus Toronto versus Seattle than it probably is US versus other countries. So
really true.
I think that's really part of our future. So thank you both for providing that insight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.